Finalizing, folks, welcome back to the channel. So you've watched the vid on how to record the group chat on your action camera, but the audio's all over the place. Sometimes it's too quiet, maybe it's too loud in places. So how do you go from this to this?
And my wife's not there to hear it. Am I still wrong?
Well, that's what this vid's all about. Find out how now. Ooh, that rhymes.
Down in the dirt.
Okay then folks, so you've watched this vid on how to set up your lid to record your comms into your GoPro, but the audio is not quite there. For some reason, sometimes the comms audio is much quieter than the lav audio that will record your own voice inside your lid. So it sounds something like this. So you can see here, I've just imported some standard files. Now, this will work on most of the video editing packages out there. I use a Mac, so I've got Final Cut Pro. It'll work on Adobe Premiere Pro, works on a DaVinci Resolve, Kinemaster, all these different things. Maybe if you're using something like iMovie or Windows Movie Maker, you might have to level up and get something a little bit more substantial. But things like DaVinci Resolve, they're all free anyway. There's plenty of free video editing software out there. It just needs to have the ability to change your audio from stereo to mono and then add a few little effects. So these are the bog standard files straight out the camera. Have a listen to this. So you can hear there that the comms audio, the first part, that's much quieter, almost indiscernible. You can't really even make out what's being said. But mine, when I laugh, that's considerably louder. So how do you sort this? Well, if you have a look over here where the audio levels are, let me just... So there you go, you can see this has been recorded in stereo, and if I click the audio file there, you can see up here in properties, it is showing stereo. So if I let that play just now, there's the two different channels. See, and they're both at different levels there. One is sort of round about, we're almost zero, and the other one's right down here at round about sort of minus, I don't know, 16, something like that. So how do we sort this? First thing you need to do, so you come across, this is for Final Cut Pro, but you just need to turn it from stereo to mono. And in Final Cut, it's as simple as hit the drop down there and just turn it into dual mono. We're taking those two stereo channels and we're putting it, forcing it out both speakers now exactly the same audio, which is what we want. For your particular video editing software, just Google, so for example, say you're using Kinemaster, then just Google how to turn stereo audio to dual mono. Okay, now with this clip selected, I go up into clip, and what I want to do here is I want to expand the audio components. And what that's done now is that's then taking the two separate sort of stereo channels that I had, which we'd forced into dual mono, and it's now separating them so we can work on these independently. So for example, this one here, this top one, this is my lav mic. So you know the mic that's inside my lid connected direct to the GoPro, that's that file. This file is the output from the comms unit, in my case the Cardo Packtalk. Well, now Edge, but it was the Cardo Packtalk there. So if I just mute my sort of lavalier audio, and you have a listen.
If a tree falls down in the forest and my wife's not there to hear it, am I still wrong?
There is the audio, but you can hear it's a lot quieter, and vice versa. If I mute the comms and play the lav mic, you're just hearing engine noise because I'm not talking or anything like that. So how do we do this then? Well, I need to boost the comms audio. So if we have a look over here at the audio levels, this will give me an idea what sort of bass audio level I'm looking at.
If a tree falls down in the forest and my wife's not there to hear it, am I still wrong?
So we could see there, as it's playing, it's sort of round about, I'd say the quietest one is about minus 34 decibels. If you look, it's hitting round about here.
If a tree falls down in the forest and my wife's not there to hear it, am I still wrong?
So that's about minus 34. What we need to do is we need to add an effect called, so on Final Cut Pro, you go to Effects, scroll down into the audio, and we want something in the levels. We want something called a compressor. Now you can either click and drag that across, or you can just make sure your file's highlighted and you can just double click. And that automatically puts that onto the file. Now if I click here to open up the properties, I already have a preset for my podcast and things. I'll just whack that on just to give you an idea. That's my bog standard setup for the podcast stuff, and then I just work around that. If you know what you're doing with audio, you might want to take note of this. It might be of interest. The threshold is -20. I'll cover that in a second. Ratio for me is 3:1. Makeup is 0. The knee I use is 1. The attack I use is 1. And release for me is 10. Probably won't mean anything to most of you out there, but anyone that's interested in that sort of audio, that might be of some use to you. Everybody else, if you're using Final Cut Pro, if you just adjust all these different components to those settings right now, and then you can just use that as a base as we go. The only one you'll probably need to change is threshold, and maybe the ratio, possibly, if you need to boost things a little bit more. So this thresh, what that is you're telling this compressor effect, you're saying anything below that level you're not really interested in, but everything above it you want to start applying this effect to. So for me, when I was looking there, the lowest sort of level that audio was getting to was about -34. So I would just put that to about -34. You can even, double click there and just type it in yourself if you want. Right, so if we now have a little listen to this, have a listen to the difference.
If a tree falls down in the forest and my wife's not there to hear it, am I still wrong?
Okay, so that's already considerably louder than it was before.
If a tree falls down in the forest and my wife's not there to hear it, am I still wrong?
And have another little listen to it and watch these audio meters.
If a tree falls down in the forest and my wife's not there to hear it, am I still wrong?
So again, it's sort of round about -14, -13, -14, something like that. For audio, you want it to be up around about -6. That tends to be where I keep it for most of my vids. But anywhere between sort of -3 and -6 for my vids normally. So what I'd do is I'd come across here to the ratio and I'd just whack it from 3 to 4. So it's now 4:1. So it's multiplying it 4 times rather than 3.
If a tree falls down in the forest and my wife's not there to hear it, am I still wrong?
Okay, so there you go. It's now hovering between sort of 6 and 12. Whack a little bit more on that if we wanted. There's a thing called gain, which is just basically just amplifying it. So if we whack this gain up to about 3.
If a tree falls down in the forest and my wife's not there to hear it, am I still wrong?
There we go. Okay, so that's oomphed it up a little bit more. But what you do see here, see how we've got all these sort of yellow peaks? Just starting to distort a little bit. So for me, what I do is I chuck in something called an adaptive limiter. Again, these come as default in Final Cut Pro, and in your chosen video editing package, there will be a similar thing. It'll either be called a limiter or an adaptive limiter. I use adaptive most of the time on mine. So for me, look ahead, I'll not go into the exact details about it, but for me, look ahead, I always have at 180. My output ceiling on this one, let's start actually at -2 to begin with. I'm not interested too much in gain. I'll whack that down to 1, but I always have true peak detection. I always put that on. So let's have a little listen to see what effect that has.
If a tree falls down in the forest and my wife's not there to hear it, am I still wrong?
So you can see straight away, once we apply this, those sort of yellow distorted peaks have gone. If I switch that off, see how they're there? But you notice it does lower the volume again. What we can do is we can boost that a little bit more with this gain. We can whack that up to 2. Let's have a little look, see what effect that has.
If a tree falls down in the forest and my wife's not there to hear it, am I still wrong?
So I might want to put that up a little bit more. I might put that up to even 3.
If a tree falls down in the forest and my wife's not there to hear it, am I still wrong?
Okay, so it's sitting sort of between 6 and 12, probably around about -8, -9, something like that at the moment. Okay, so that's what we've done. We've applied that to the comms audio channel. We could do the same to the GoPro Lav one if we want, but if you have a listen to this, see that whole clip? There's no audio coming from my lav mic. And if I include that with the comms,
if a tree falls down in the forest and my wife...
There's just a lot going on there, isn't there? And I find it quite hard to hear the comms. If I isolate it, if I just turn off that audio and just leave the comms, listen to the effect. So
if
that's
a tree
with,
falls down in the forest
without,
and my wife's not there to hear it,
with,
am I still wrong?
So obviously for this, it makes sense to isolate that and just turn off the GoPro Lav audio. This one here, where there's the two of us talking. Here in the background, there's some comms audio there, which you can't hear. So again, I'll select that one, I'll change it from stereo to dual mono, go up to clip, expand audio components. So if we listen, isolate the GoPro audio, the Lav audio. So that's just me. But if I turn me off and I switch on the comms, have a listen.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so there's two different people talking there. If we just do the same thing, so if we add a compressor, actually, let's find out what bass level. If we play this and have a look at the audio meters again, have a look at what level we're dealing with.
Yes. Yes.
So again, it's around about -34. So I just add a compressor, open up the compressor, and then change these effects here. The threshold, again, I want that to be back to about -34. Let's have a little listen.
Yes. Yes.
Again, let's whack that ratio up to 4 rather than 1.
Yes. Yes.
And just whack up some of the gain there. Let's give it 3.
Yes. Yes.
All right, okay. And then again, I just want to get rid of some of those peaks. So for me, I'll just whack in the adaptive limiter. Look ahead, I put to 180. Output ceiling, make that 1 actually. True peak detection, turn that. Bring the gain down to 1, just see.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so you can see there, it's already pretty much in line with the other comms. Look at the audio meters.
And my wife's not there to hear it. Am I still wrong? Yes. Yes.
I think there's a slight difference there, which I think is because the output ceiling, yeah. So the output ceiling I add is -2 on the first one. Let's whack it to 1.
If a tree falls down in the forest and my wife's not there to hear it, am I still wrong? Yes. Yes.
So they're all roughly the same. You can see it's just starting to peak a smidgen, but I think we're going to get away with that. So let's have a little listen and see what it sounds like with my GoPro audio going on there.
Yes. Yes.
I think that sounds fine. So you see there how we've gone from this to this.
If a tree falls down in the forest and my wife's not there to hear it, am I still wrong? Yes. Yes.
And that is how you adjust the audio in your group chat. Now you might need to play about with the different property values of the compressor and the limiter. If you have, say you've got 5 or 6 different people chatting on your comms within that conversation, each person can have different volumes of their own voice. Some people could be really softly spoken and other people could be quite loud and booming voices. They might have the mic right up against their mouth or they might have it a little bit further away. So you might have to increase or decrease gain. You might have to play around with the threshold. But again, these audio meters here, they are a godsend because they give you that base level to be working with. Have a little play around with your own bits of software. If you're not using Final Cut and you're using something else, again, Google is your friend. Listen to what I've said in this video and then Google that for your specific software. All right, folks, let me know how you got on. Let me know if you find that useful or if it's still clear as mud. Let me know if you like these sort of tutorial style vids, folks, because I can do more on editing if you're interested in them. All right, folks, keep doing your thing. Keep getting on out there whenever you possibly can. Look after those that you love, but most importantly, live your life. Woo-ha! Check out the new t-shirts.